Commissioner Moran. Here. Commissioner Simcock.
Here.
Commissioner Yu.
All right. Next up, we have an approval of the agenda. If somebody would make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next up is the approval of the minutes of February 1st, 2024. Are there any edits, corrections, deletions people would like to see?
I have none.
None.
Sorry, just looking at the packet to make sure that all of us were here for that. I believe we were. So I'll look for a motion to approve as submitted.
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries
Oh,
unanimously.
Aye, yes.
Thank you.
I said, okay.
Next up is the minutes of February 15th, 2024. Any edits, deletions, or additions people would like to see?
None from me.
None.
All right, hearing none, I'll look for a motion to approve them as presented.
So moved.
And second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next up is the City Liaison Council report.
Hi, good evening, Planning Commission. I have nothing to report from City Council tonight, and if it's okay with you, I'm a little sick, so I'm going to go ahead and go home and watch the rest of the meeting so I don't affect any of you.
Thank you for your report.
Thanks.
All right, next up is community input. At this time, any person may address the Planning Commission concerning an item that is not on the agenda. The Commission welcomes your attendance and participation. When addressing the Commission, please begin by providing your name and address for the record. Please keep comments to no more than 3 minutes to assure an orderly and timely meeting. Seeing none, we will move on to our public hearing, the annual review of conditional use permit 22-03 to amend conditions of approval for private rental events and filming at the Villa del Sol d'Oro located at the Alverno Heights Academy campus. Does staff have a presentation?
Yes, we're loading up the presentation right now.
I apologize for zipping through all those motions so quickly.
So good evening, Chair and Planning Commissioners. Tonight we'll be reviewing the amendment to the conditional use permit and amending the conditions of approval for the private rental event at the Villa. So a little bit of background, in 2022, the Planning Commission approved Resolution 22-17 and the conditional use permit 2203. According to the conditional use permit's general condition, the Planning Commission shall hold a public hearing 1 year from the approval date to determine compliance with the conditions of approval. So on October 19, we have agendized a discussion for the annual review. So the Planning Commission hold an annual review and receive a staff presentation, heard from the public regarding the conditions of approval from the rental event. Also, we scheduled that item as a discussion, and the discussion continued to November 16, 2023. And at that meeting, Planning Commission directed staff to schedule a public hearing based on the conditional use permit, stating that if Planning Commission determines one or more of the conditions of approval have been violated, it may agendize a public hearing to amend the conditions of approval or revoke the conditional use permit. So from those two discussions, amendments were provided from the Planning Commission and also from Alverno Heights Academy that included time of use, noise, traffic and parking, also the amendments to the on-site event monitors. So I want to talk a little bit about the last item. Since that meeting, Planning Commission have a vote of no confidence in the current services provided by the event monitor and requested that the city manager to appoint a new on-site event monitor to administer the event monitoring services for the special event at the villa. So since then, we have entered, city manager's office has draft a memorandum of understanding along with the police chief and our city attorney's office to employ off-duty officers to serve as event monitors at the private rental events at the villa. A copy of the MOU is included in the staff report for your review. And each event monitor will be provided with an updated event monitor checklist. So it also stated that the event monitor is responsible for completing the checklist and submitting to the city. So here is a copy of the event monitor checklist. Our city attorney's office has updated, incorporating Alverno's comments to have an area for Alverno to fill out and also other areas to be completed by the event monitor. And it also provided more areas for taking down their notes and the time. And there also a backside that provide spaces for them to jot down all the details that will be provided by the event monitor. Now we'll go into the conditions of approval that were discussed in the previous meetings. So city attorney's office created this 3-column table. The first column being the original document language that was adopted back in 2022. And the middle column is the proposed edits from the Planning Commission from the discussions. And the third column would be Alverno's suggested edit. So this relates to Section 2, time of use. So the original text stated that Friday or Saturday rental events shall begin no earlier than 8 a.m., including setup, and end no later than 10 p.m., including taking down, with music ending not later than 9:30 p.m. And the suggested edit would be all vehicles except those of events monitoring and property owners' representatives shall exit the campus by 10 p.m. So there is additional 30 minutes. And Alverno's suggested edit would be identify each item and the ending time. Section 2.2.3, all event guests shall depart by 10 p.m. and event cleaned up shall end no later than 10:30 p.m.
They're all saying just take one, right? Oh, no one's missing the back.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I don't know if we have, do you want to go section by section or do you want to make your comments at the end?
Well, we're only supposed to ask questions of whether or not we understand, right? I think that the section by section comment would happen during deliberation. Am I thinking about that right?
Okay. And we have the section 3 regarding noise. For section 3.1 related to no live band shall be allowed. Planning Commission's edit would be no live band shall be allowed with the exception of instrumentalists playing string instruments which shall perform without amplification devices. Alverno's suggested edit would be no live band are permitted either outdoor or indoor.
Sorry, Mr. City Attorney, does that mean that their version is actually more stringent than ours and excludes instrumentals?
You would have to read it in context with the other proposed amendments to make sense of it.
Yeah, I think the one below it.
Okay,
Yeah,
they
so-
got it back in 3.2, got it.
Okay. So, there are also edits that's proposed by Alverno regarding the instrumentalist playing stringed instrument may be amplified in compliance with Sierra Madre's noise ordinance. So, I wanted to skip the line by line so we can have more time at the later meeting. So there are also edits for section 4.2 regarding alcohol will not be served at the last hour. Planning Commission has the suggestions that it will not be served at the last hour and in no case past 8:30. There's also edits from the Planning Commission regarding section 5 for the traffic and parking. Those Alverno has no other further edits. And under number 8.4, there is no edits regarding, there's no Alverno suggested edit regarding the on-site event monitor. So at the last two meetings, we also received feedback from the public that they were not able to find the website on Alverno's school website to find the filming production events and photography production events, also the villa rental events. We have a screenshot here just to let the public know that they can find it at www.alvernoheightsacademy.org under my neighbor information. There's also another feedback regarding finding hard to find the event monitoring reports. So if you go onto our city's website, www.cityofsierramadre.com/AHA, this is where we post all the special events and including all the event monitoring reports. Lastly is another feedback that we received that people wanted to know where they can report violations. So City of Sierra Madre's website has an online citizen portal that allows citizens to report any violations related to noise or code violations or water waste or street lights. So the Planning Commission this evening may amend the conditional use permit subject to the resolution 2404 or amend with modification or revoke the application identifying the findings that supports the Planning Commission's determination, or continue the public hearing and provide directions to the staff and the applicant. That concludes my report.
Chair, I just had some supplemental information if you wouldn't mind.
Yep.
With respect to something that Manager Lin raised about the event monitor checklist and the event monitor MOU, I participated in drafting that document. I just wanted to provide some context as to how this is expected to work. We have, according to Police Chief, 8 off-duty officers that are willing to take on this assignment for it's basically additional pay for them. They won't be serving as police officers. They're going to be wearing separate vests that are going to say, that are going to identify them as event monitors. If there's a public safety issue, that's going to be called into our police department. So they won't be serving as police officers and be unarmed. They're just going to be filling out this form throughout the course of the event. They have already met with Ms. Bertolini on site, is my understanding, so they're familiar with the site. They were all approved by the police chief to serve in this function, and they will report to the city manager. The only thing they're waiting on in order to begin is an updated conditions of approval if the Planning Commission decides to adopt or make any kind of amendments to the conditions of approval today. The second point I wanted to raise was about windows and doors. So in reviewing the public comment, we saw a number of public comments encouraging the commission to make sure that Alverno closes its windows and doors. In our correspondence with Alverno, we were under the assumption, and I mean this like city staff was under the assumption, that windows and doors were closed when portable air conditionings were brought in, because the way the building is built is very old. It doesn't have central air and heat. So you can imagine the summer, it can get unbearable. But it's my understanding that Alverno does have portable ACs. It was later brought to my attention that, according to Alverno, our former fire marshal had directed them to leave the doors and windows open because of a public safety issue. So I confirmed with our current fire marshal, because we have a new one. I confirmed with our current fire marshal and our current fire chief that that's no longer a requirement, and that we can have the windows and doors be closed during all events. So that's also something that this commission may want to consider including as a potential condition in the conditions of approval. That's all, thanks.
Thank you.
And Chair, the applicant will also prepare a presentation for you.
Okay, great. Does anybody have any questions for staff before? I did have one question, and maybe it'll lead to more. That's great information that you shared. Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. When we last gathered, we talked about continuous sound monitoring rather than time-based sound monitoring, and I see no reference of that anywhere in this report. I believe that we had left that to be taken away and brought back to us with options for continuous monitoring.
Yeah, I believe, I don't know if Alverno's going to be talking about that, but Alverno did do some research into that, and they have some numbers. And I saw the numbers via email, but I don't know if that's going to be part of Ms. Harbedian's presentation today. But I know Alverno can address what that costs approximately.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Honorable Chair, Commission members, and staff. My name is Joanne Harbedian. I'm the head of Alverno Heights Academy. I'm here tonight to read Mr. Ken Farsing's statement. Unfortunately, Ken had a medical emergency this evening, so please keep him in your thoughts. So I will read it verbatim as he wrote it. My name is Ken Farsing, President of the Alverno Heights Academy Board of Trustees. We want to thank the Commission and staff for the first annual review of the conditional use permit for the adaptive reuse of the villa. We have some brief comments and suggestions. At the October 19th, 2023 meeting, the Commission expressed a desire for more accurate reports from the event monitors. Alverno thanks you, City Manager Reynoso, Police Chief Barrientos, for suggesting that off-duty police officers serve as event monitors. Also, thanks to City Attorney Giragostian for working with Alverno on a memorandum of understanding between the parties, outlining the roles and responsibility of the parties. Alverno will employ an off-duty police officer for each event and will continue to use Securitas as event security to assist the event monitors. We believe that this proposal will give the commission, the neighbors, and city staff accurate information on the villa events and compliance with conditions. We have suggestions that would simplify the conditions of approval to assist the event monitor. Condition 2.2 should be divided into subsections that defines the various event stages. We are proposing language that no live bands are permitted either outdoors or indoors in condition 3.1. One of our concerns is the limitation on amplification for stringed instruments proposed in condition 3.2, such as violins and harps. These are common stringed instruments used in pre-ceremony where guests are being seated, or in the processional and recessional music. These instruments should be treated as any other music, subject to the city noise ordinance. We do not understand what appears to be an arbitrary time limit of 10 minutes for processional and recessional music. There should be no time limit imposed on religious ceremonies, sermons, and the like. There have been suggestions that the villa's entrance and exit doors be closed during the events, condition 3.6. Alverno has been complying with the city requirement found in the September 9th, 2009 City Council staff report that the entry and exit doors remain open during events. Chief Bartlett has provided an explanation indicating that if the need arises justifying the opening of entrance and exit doors, the department will exercise its discretion in directing Alverno to keep the doors open. We will be contacting Chief Bartlett to review various event plans to make certain that the public safety is ensured if the entrance and exit doors are closed during events. Condition 4.2 is related to condition 2.2, which defines the stages of the event. We believe that condition 4.2 would be improved if it required no alcoholic service after the last hour of the event instead of 8:30 p.m. Events end at different times. For example, events ending at 8 p.m. would then have no alcohol served after 7 p.m. There may be confusion between the villa event ending times and the ending times for the filming. All filming activities stop at 10 p.m. We are proposing that the last guests leave the campus at 10 p.m. The Historic Preservation Ordinance encourages the Commission to work in partnership with the property owners to create financial incentives for the preservation of the city's historic resources. The Commission has imposed a comprehensive and expensive set of operational conditions which makes the villa a less desirable event venue as compared to other venues. Alverno is just beginning to experience the adverse impacts from the city's revisions to the filming ordinance. The Commission requiring the ending events at 9:30 p.m. will place a substantial burden on the preservation of the villa. It is our sincere hope that by Alverno agreeing to employ the off-duty officers, that the city and the neighbors are provided with increased accountability and transparency. The Commission should allow this proposal to move forward, giving the new event monitors the opportunity to implement the conditions of approval. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions for me?
Did you have any comments on the continuous monitoring?
I do not. Because of this emergency, I don't have that information. I believe Mr. Farsing has it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant? All
I
right.
guess I do have a question. I'm not sure there's going to be an answer, though. How many events have occurred this year?
Well, the easiest thing is we pull up the website from October, or
Since-
January,
Since our last meeting, November 16th.
I can tell you.
It's at least 1, 2,
November
3,
18th?
4, 5.
November 18th,
So October 14th, 28th, November 4th, 11th, 18th.
Oh,
So-
no, but our last meeting was the November 16th.
Okay, so since then,
The
2.
18th and the,
Or just, I'm sorry, just the 18th.
it was just the 18th? Is that right?
I'm just going through my calendar to be correct. November 18th was a wedding, and then March 2nd, private event. But March 2nd was a
So
school
there was
event.
an event March 2nd.
There was a school event.
Oh, okay.
That's it?
That's it.
All right. Actually, I do have a question. I believe that when we first put forth the terms of the CUP, there was an agreement that there were some previously booked events, and that those previously booked events would conform to the old rules rather than the new rules. Am I remembering that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
So when are those events scheduled? Because last time we convened, we were told that there were still 4 or 5 of those events that were hanging out there. And so I wondered when those are scheduled for.
Are you asking Alverno
Alverno. I don't think the city staff will know when your events are scheduled.
If you pull up the school's website, they were asked to be underlined or noted differently, and that's the ones that were already booked were underlined.
Okay, so there's none left then.
I would have to double check
Oh, wait,
on
no,
the
there's a
school
lot
website.
underlined.
I don't have my wedding binder here.
Yeah, they're 23. It actually starts in
Oh,
23.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I'm
so
sorry.
There's the 391, which I guess is in a couple days, that's underlined.
Right.
And then, do we see any other ones?
Well, I guess because
Oh.
the calendar's supposed to be the master event.
Calendar is, but I don't have the binder in front of me or my calendar up, but I could pull up my website and count for you.
Well, I'm looking at your website, and there's only one event that's left underlined. So is
And
it
that
safe
would
to
be
say
it.
that that would be the last one?
Yeah, because everything is up and underlined, that was it.
Okay.
Hmm?
All right. I think those were my questions. So I guess if there's no other questions for the applicant, we'll take public comment and then deliberate. All right. Community input. At this time, any person may address the Planning Commission concerning an item on the agenda. The commission welcomes your attendance and participation. When addressing the commission, please begin by providing your name and address for the record.
Bob Spears, West Grandview Avenue.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, distinguished city staff. I would like to start with a couple of fun facts. First, there has been more public hearings for Alverno's issues than there have been for all the construction of the 42 homes in the Meadows project. Second, there are 8 schools in the city of Sierra Madre, 4 with more students on the same size or smaller campuses. None of them have generated the public complaints and the need for intervention that Alverno has required. Tonight, you have the opportunity to use your common sense to put an end to this circus. Simply point to number 3 and say that you cannot make the finding that, quote, the proposed use will not unreasonably interfere with the use, possession, and enjoyment of surrounding and adjacent properties. The bottom line is the staff at Alverno is unwilling or unable to manage their event location. Instead, they sit back, allow events to run amok, and put the burden on managing the event on you and the city staff while they collect the money. Let me provide you with some Planning Commission history. As a commissioner, I spent countless hours listening to the presentations from sound specialists about ambient sound levels and how they need to be measured so that city staff can craft a noise ordinance because Alverno staff was unwilling to take control of the events. Your staff report says that you're back at it again tonight. As a commissioner, I spent countless hours debating Alverno's basic operation about parking, how early, how late trucks, caterers, movie crews can set up, work, and strike. We even had to discuss when they could put out the trash and clean up after an event. Tonight's staff report says you may get to revisit these same issues again. As a commissioner, I spent countless hours listening to neighbors tell us about movie shoots that blow up buildings in the middle of the night, movie shoots that set up lights and shine into neighbors' homes, movie trucks that arrive too early and block driveways or leave their engines running, wedding celebrations that go on for long after hours, people who continue to celebrate in the parking lot and on the street long after the event has finished. As a commissioner, I spent countless hours listening to community members tell us about how their phone calls during events go unreturned or their requests for information are ignored. When the commission asked Alverno to keep their neighbors informed with meetings and signatures, the problems got worse, not better. As a commissioner, I spent countless hours trying to craft directions so that Alverno could treat their neighbors with respect and understanding. I always found it ironic that I had to encourage a school with religious values to show kindness, respect, and to treat their neighbors as themselves. As a taxpayer, I am very angry that so much valuable staff time and city resources are being used to compensate for Alverno's lack of respect for their community. This issue has been festering for years because it is an accumulation of events that have been left unaddressed by the school. As a former school site administrator, I know it takes work and outreach to listen to neighbors' concerns. Children make noise when they play, and they need to be monitored and supervised. Sadly, on this campus, the CUP that you have before you on agenda tonight only amplifies the inconvenience to the neighboring community. I believe that the neighbors have already become aware of school noise and see it as a continuation of a never-ending intrusion. Alverno has treated their neighbors with disdain long enough. Their CUP event location business plan allows them to collect the money while you and I have to manage the event at our expense. That needs to stop. Just let the school be a school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa Paleo, West Highland. Kristen Stevens, West Grandview.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Kristen Stevens. I live on Grandview. I wasn't expecting that. Okay. I wanted to say I think the staff works very hard. I didn't know he was going to get up and say that. So this is not on them, but at last minute before I came here, someone asked where the table was that many of my neighbors worked together to provide input to try and give you something concrete to work with. If we couldn't get the CUP revoked, then let's offer you something side by side. It seems like Alverno gets to weigh in and the city gets to weigh in. So the neighbors have been trying for years. We take the things that we've had as negotiated agreements, and this last CUP literally stripped things away that had been negotiated. I have all the documents. I have a file this fat, all the way back to '59. So I know that the staff works hard, and I feel really bad when I send them a document like this, and then I don't see it, I panic, I print it out. I understand it went under planning commission. Some of us got confused. We should have sent things to public comments, but good Lord, the number of meetings we go to, it's just overblown. We want to be done with it, and we appreciate all the time you have put into this. You were mailed it. I hope you can give some amount of credence to what we have tried to make this simple for you on what our side is hoping or expecting for. Thank you so much. I was not going to speak, but I did panic that maybe you didn't get what we sent you. And let me tell you the hours we put into this to try and put it in sequential order too. Good Lord, what these guys have to do, and these 853-page agendas we've had to deal with that we only get a couple days before. So thank you very much.
This is your summary of what you...
This is the neighbors, not just mine. I did,
Right,
I'm,
right.
I'm
But this
yes.
is the summary you were trying to get to us that we just got tonight.
Yeah,
okay.
I hope maybe, it went in yesterday, but like I said, there's so much city business that gets shoved aside, so sometimes we don't get a response saying, this was submitted, and we used to, but then we started going, well, they're so busy. And now it's like, if you don't get a response, contact the city, which is what we were doing today for other people, and that one slipped through. But I do appreciate everything, thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak?
Hi, Keith Stevens, West Grandview Avenue. I had a very nice crafted 2-minute speech prepared, and then the downpour happened this afternoon and I left my office in a panic without it. But I think former Commissioner Spears speaks what I had to say in a much more better way than I could have. I guess I was recounting the history that the villa was first built as it was the folly of a well-to-do man to build a giant architecturally significant building in the middle of a 12-acre landscape property. And he had the resources to keep that up, but after his passing just 10 years later, the question has been, how do you feed the monster? You know, the Jameson estate, other large properties in Sierra Madre parceled out or found their other solutions, but I feel this has just been a 50, 60-year piecemealing of commercial and non-residential activity that has just affected us for years, and we agree with Mr. Spears and would love to see an end to it and a significant change. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Would anybody else like to comment on this agendized item? All right. Then at this time, we will bring it back to the commission for deliberation. Anybody want to start?
One of their suggestions is on here that I had that I haven't had a chance to actually look through the whole thing, but the noise level that we discussed, the monitoring, I was going to suggest, because the street level is just untenable, to make a suggestion that they do it some footage 25, 30 feet from the event. So whoever's at the event monitor is there, that would cut down on the ambient noise going to the street. You know, so if it's 70 decibels at 30 feet away from the building, that's going to affect the inside volume. The valet parking may be also a good idea in terms of trying to get, although I wonder if that's practical, if they can move cars around fast enough to do that kind of thing. But I haven't had a chance to even digest most of it. I'm not sure that I'm willing to throw the whole thing out as Mr. Spears suggests and just let condition 3 trump the other conditions. But again, I haven't read everything. I don't want to continue this unless everybody else has any less more insignificant input if they're convinced by that. But I think that would be one way, because the sound was the major issue as far as I was concerned, that we were bouncing around in the monitoring. And I think that could be handled if you gave them a viable circumference to patrol, and one person could easily do it. And if those sound violations were exceeded, it would be pretty obvious. And I think that would also cut down on the sound that goes to the perimeter, which was the other basis, and which is like, it's a rectangle. So the side streets is one, the Grandview and Highland is another. But I think that would mitigate a lot. That's just my initial thoughts. I don't know what anybody else has another list.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think what's been happening, at least in the last, what is that, 12 and 5, 17 months or so, plus I'm sure many years before that, is working. When I look through this and I look through what we're being asked to do to maybe, amend things so it works by saying 9:30, 10 o'clock. I'm fine with working on that because we need a set of rules, but I feel that Alverno is not, we need to find a way to make this work. It's not working now. There seems to be nobody trying to do that. Everybody seems to be trying to follow a plan, but we have neighbors that have been sitting for years that aren't happy. So I don't think, part of my job up here is to listen to the needs of our community. And I'm doing that. It's not working for them. I would love to find a way to make it work. But we need, instead of coming every year saying, well, the last year we did this, we need to set a boundary, and we need to find a way to make it work quickly. I'm not sure I want to get past that right now, but that's my goal at the end of the day.
Can't imagine going through so many meetings like Mr. Spears. I've been through, I think, 3 or 4 meetings on this, and I am already exhausted by the topic, and certainly the neighbors seem to be as well. I do get the impression that kind of the neighbors and the city are taking the brunt on, coming up with ideas about how to make it work, and amendments in terms of small kind of changes of language, that if we change this or that, then maybe the relationship or the neighborhood will change. I do like Commissioner Pevner's suggestion of simplifying the noise monitoring. I think that if that indeed is the majority of the impact, and even if not, it does seem like if we can get that under control, then we could handle the next thing. If there's a, maybe it's Ubers or something like that, that's the issue that comes up next, where there's a gap in the language. It does seem like, it's good we have a city attorney, et cetera, that wherever there's a little bit of a gap or a wiggle room, that gap or a wiggle room is taken advantage of, either purposely or just accidentally. And it's honestly hard to figure out, the exact language and the exact monitoring to make sure that there is, ultimately what should be fairly common sense in shutting down an event and having an event that is minimally impactful on the neighbors. So I do think that even if we followed all these edits here that the neighbors suggest, my hypothesis would be that we'd be back here again, because no matter what we put the language, there is going to be, if there's not an extreme effort by Alverno to make this situation acceptable to the neighbors, then there will always be a gap in the language where something will be upsetting. So at minimum, that noise request, it does concern me. Former Commissioner Spears' comment about how many resources have been spent citywide on this, and I imagine Alverno has gained, however many hundreds of thousands of dollars of profit over the years, but then you think about the hours and hours of time of various citizens here in the community on that. And I do think that is an imbalance. However it proceeds, today or going forward, I would say, we could set a goal of capping the conversation about this, and maybe, when do we consider actually revoking it? I'm not sure. So those are some of my thoughts.
Well, thank you. I too have attended a meeting or two about Alverno Heights Academy. So I probably have some stronger opinions on some of this stuff. I guess I'll talk about the proposed changes, or maybe we'll go through the proposed changes after that. I'll give some general comments and then we can go through the proposed changes and see if there's any changes to that. So, you know, I did hear concerns about stringed and harps being amplified, and there was a reference about religious events in there, and I just wanted to be very careful to separate that the religious events are not something that this CUP governs, and in no way are we affecting religious events. We are for rental events. You said something interesting that anytime there's gap or wiggle room, that it seems as if it's taken advantage of. And I have seen enough gaps and enough wiggle rooms where I sat up here at this dais and we were very, very clear about the intention of what was said, and it wasn't followed, and it was, oh, we didn't understand it to be that. There were no doubt in our minds about it, and yet that wiggle room was taken advantage of. The Planning Commission had been very, very clear. This was a large opportunity with a lot of events built into it, with a lot of leeway. And the Planning Commission gave very clear direction that that Alverno Heights should take advantage of this time and provide outreach with their neighbors and come back and get glowing reports from their neighbors, not come back with continued negative feedback that is identical or on a greater scale than what we received before we authorized this large number of events to happen. And so I am inclined to recommend both a tightening of the policies that are listed in here, along with a carrot. And the carrot would be that we reduce the number of events annually by half, go through that reduced period and see how that works. And if we continue to have negative feedback after a year with the more stringent codes, then we can look at the results then and determine if we need to again shrink it, or hey, everybody's happy again. Let's go ahead and give them the opportunity to work within the constraints that we've provided and keep that outreach. But I feel like too many times we've had these conversations, and too many times it's come to nothing, and we continue to get pushed and we continue to get negative feedback. And it was very clear, it was set up to have quarterly meetings, to have annual meetings, to solicit that feedback, so that Alverno would hear the feedback from the community that is granting them this amazing opportunity to have 6.5 times more events than any other single parcel in the entire city. And so I think that that is a way to ensure that Alverno believes the seriousness of what it is that we are trying to enforce here, as well as tightening up some of the items that have created some wiggle room. I'm certain that with our clarifying what was taken to be unclear, as well as having a real force there to be event monitors, that we should see a better turnout, and next year's meeting will just be a breeze. I understand that there was some delay between when we met at the annual, at the anniversary of when this was supposed to happen. Some of them, the MOU took some time to negotiate and the like, but I mean, we're nearly 6 months past that annual thing. So I'm also going to propose that we reset the date based on when it is that we get this passed, so that we don't wait another 18 months to have this conversation. Because we were already 6 months, by the time this gets done, it's going to be 6 months past when that meeting was due. So those are some of the high-level things that I'd like to incorporate as we go through and refine some of this language. Are there any questions or thoughts about what I've put forth before we?
Well, the neighbors suggested 20. I'm not sure how many events they've had since January of this year, because if you, I don't know.
None.
They've had one, but they're allowed 26 and they did 25 last year.
Right, so your suggestion would be they'd be allowed 12 more for this year versus
Yes.
19 if they,
Or they would, that whenever we ratify this, that they would have, because that would be the new anniversary date, right?
yeah, whatever.
Whatever, 25 or 12 or 13 based on,
I'm just saying some of the tweaks that the neighbors had said, at the very least, let's end things at 10 o'clock with, last call and people exiting at 9:30. So move things up a half hour, limited to 20 events, and do the sound monitoring more proximal to the villa, and see if they can comply. Because the next move I would say that would be, the sort of the death penalty.
I think that the villa is
I think the noise is one of the most major things.
I totally agree, and I think that,
Hearing what they do, and clearing up afterwards, the clearing of the streets and, the parking and all that kind of stuff. So if they can mitigate some of the noise, then it won't be as obvious, and they'll have tighter parameters for that. So if they can't comply, then we'll have, a monitor. I think that between the police and whoever they're going to hire, if they're still going to hire the people that couldn't do it before, but regardless, we'll have somebody on site that's going to be able to have a decibel monitor. They could literally walk the perimeter of that and get that verified. And then if there's something going on, they'll have the authority to tell them, you got to keep it down or turn this down, or tell somebody who's in charge what to do. And then, like you said, give them one more chance so that at the next time it's like, okay, that's it. And to comply with their quarterly meetings to sort of see how it's going as well. I remember there was an announcement about some of the meetings you had, and we didn't get them because you didn't get them, and then they didn't occur, and then we didn't know if they occurred or didn't occur. So I'd also like to be noticed so that we can actually attend one of those meetings if we're going to,
yeah, that was 18 months ago, and I think we've received one email about any of the meetings, and it was very explicitly clear that we were to be included on those. So there has been breakdown after breakdown after breakdown, and so I agree that we should tighten these up. So maybe we flip pages and go through these and see how we want to change these.
When we do that, do we have to have another meeting on this after we do it?
Not if we get through it tonight.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. And then I do have one question. If we put forth a condition, so it's a CUP, so when we ratify it, it's ratified.
Correct. The CUP takes effect immediately.
Okay. And then if the applicant chooses to appeal, they would go to the city council about that?
Correct.
Okay. And they could appeal on a line item by line item basis or on the whole?
They have to appeal the entire CUP.
What would it revert to if they appealed it? Or
They would, if they appealed the CUP, it would operate under their existing CUP until a final determination is made on the proposed amendments. Makes sense.
no. So, you're saying that it operates under that, but then the city council could say, no, we're not letting you appeal it. We're not going to overturn it. Or they could say, we understand your concerns on this item, go back and work with planning commission on this. Or they could say, we agree with it, we're overturning it, it'll operate under the old one. Those would be the choices that the city council has?
And they also have the choice to make amendments themselves.
Make amendments themselves. Okay,
Right.
great. That was the option I wanted in
Right.
case.
And-
Okay.
And Chair, I had mentioned it during my report, and it's not reflected in the staff material, but like I said earlier, the closing of windows and doors may also be a condition that the commission wants to consider including that's not in there currently.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so I guess if we
1.1, yeah.
We all had in our packets the list of amendments, but I guess first off, I would propose changing the number from 26 to 13.
I'm up for that.
That's,
Do we want to codify the carrot in that, you know, the goal is if they do well with their 13, that we consider raising it again? Or is that just understood and will be communicated verbally?
I like kind of the code to be clean.
Yeah.
That's my personal preference. So I would prefer that we didn't put guidance as to, I don't want to make any promises without
Yeah,
understanding
that makes
the
sense.
full.
I just wanted to make sure that your intent of the carrot was fulfilled by that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It'll be to the planning commission that meets in 12 months.
right. I actually had a smaller number in my mind, but I had a shorter time frame in my mind. So it was more that October is 7 months away, and that we would give 7
events between now and
events
October,
Between now and October,
so that we stay
7
on the
total.
CUP schedule.
so that it doesn't take a year to get back here.
Yeah, that does make sense, and that would also give them a chance if the intent is, if they do well, to expand it in
Right.
an earlier time where if they're doing well, for us to expand it. So
We
maybe
can look
that's
at it.
advantageous for them as well.
Right, we can look at it again, and if things are going better,
We can make adjustments based
We
on
can
how
make
it's,
adjustments.
how it's going.
My only concern would be that, on their behalf, that normally when folks are planning weddings, like a lot of these were like a year in advance and that sort of stuff.
right,
so-
well, we have nothing past 7 weeks.
Okay.
So I agree, I understand and I agree with you, but.
That was why I looked at the calendar.
Yeah.
Because I know that according to their website, that you have to give a 50% deposit at the time that you lock your date.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm certain they're putting them up just as soon as they get those deposits.
Yeah. There you go.
If I may, I'd like to just let you know that previously, so I've been at Alverno just over 3 years, but previously, in the meetings I've attended, it was agreed upon that the previously booked events would be regarded, and they're underlined. We already have, how many, Andrea? But we have more than 7 from now to October. I just
Well,
wanted
there-
to let you know.
Why aren't they on the
There's
calendar?
3 on your calendar.
We're looking at
Um,
your calendar right now.
I looked at
It's
my
right
calendar
there.
on my phone, and there were several underlined. I'm sorry, I can't see. what that-
Those were from 2023.
So we.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Okay.
She does.
So we have more on, they were quarterly, they are redoing so that we can add more on. And the last meeting, we did ask to remove things, so they would be year to year. And that's what's going to happen. But I could give you a count and email it before I even leave here today. So, but we have contracts that are in 2025 and 2026.
I guess I'm confused because we'd heard that some of these events come up last minute and that was the reason that they weren't showing up on the calendar. Now we're hearing that they just don't show up even when they're quarters and quarters away. Help me understand that.
They were, if I'm remembering correctly, they were originally asked, and this was pre me coming on to facilities, that it was a quarterly mailing and that they were going out quarterly. The issue with our website and why we can't post the big agenda packets is on the backside of what content can be on, the amount of content. So this is a rolling calendar, which I just, in our last meeting with the city and the neighbors, we were going to remove the rolling yearly, because if you scroll all the way down, you're gonna see older dates. And that is why. But we do have contracts ahead of us. And I could get you the count if I sit down. It's all in my calendar, not the wedding contracts, but the dates.
Not school events, but rentals.
Rental. I have both, but yes, I have the rentals.
Well, I would definitely, I mean, that's going to be germane to the conversation. And yet another breakdown that we're seeing in this process that just doesn't work, that makes me just want to say, you're not holding up your end of the deal.
It does also seem to me like it's common sense to bring the calendar of events to this very important meeting.
Yeah, so I guess I would go through your calendar and find out how many rental events you already are contracted for at this time. so that we can make a determination on what number we're gonna give you.
Sure.
It's 13.4. I mean, can we guess? Since
She's gonna look. I think our deliberation will, that's literally just punching in a number, so we can come back to that.
all right, because we could, all right.
All right, so I guess we'll come back to 1.1. The next proposed change, where did that change go? Sorry, I'm flipping around in the,
Yeah, and I would say, no matter what, as a neighbor, like if I was gonna have a birthday party or something like that, I would wanna make sure that there wasn't a wedding on that evening, and now I can't until I get a mailing in the mail, like I
well,
can't even go to the
yeah,
site.
and that was another one of the, another
Yeah.
one of those items where what was said and understood is not what's happening. The mailings were to be mailed on a quarterly basis, but the website, we were told, would get updated when the events were booked.
Chairs, we have a staff question here in the back.
For condition 11, under general conditions, that's when we set the date for the anniversary to review. We have it 1 year from the approval. I understand that wants to be more specific, but I don't know how to word that, so I'll go ahead and highlight it.
Okay, and when we get down to that section, we'll take a look.
Where is it?
Thank you.
Condition. What? Just tell me when we get there.
Yeah. Okay, so then the first section here is section 2.2. I'm not strongly married to our language versus the clarification on their language, just so long as they use our timelines.
The neighbors did have some sort of comment on that, they wanted to strike the last.
We were very clear that the event cleanup needed to be done by 10. 10 o'clock is to be taillights only, so their
Right.
proposal of doing cleanup
No.
from 10 to 10:30,
Yeah.
I'm not
No.
okay with.
I just suggested
I
we
agree.
reduce it a half hour, 9:30 to 10.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we have in our language, so I don't think that the, actually, I guess, I don't know that the delineation of the various aspects of it's important. We want the party to be over at 9:30, and there should be nobody left at 10.
Right. We could use, I'm fine with the other language, though. I don't-
With our language or their language?
I don't care what language it is, as long as it says that. I'll use their language with our times.
That's fine. I'm amenable to that. So then we would want, 2.2.1, the PM time should be changed to 9:30?
Yes.
And this is on, Planner Wolf, this is on the Alverno suggested edits, we're gonna accept those, yeah. And then, yeah, I think 2.2.2 stands. I think 2.2.3 should probably be modified to read all event guests and rental personnel? Or how would we staff that, basically? Oh, I guess we could do the opposite, right?
Yeah, just
So,
music and it.
with the exception of event monitor, AHA representative, and security guards, everyone shall depart by 10 p.m.?
Yeah.
Do you like that language, or?
Chair, yeah, you may consider striking 2.2.3 completely and say only the event monitor, AHA representative, and security guards may be on campus
After 10 p.m.
after 10 p.m. So, something to
Yep.
that effect. So we're striking 2.2.3. And 2.2.5 starts with only.
Yep. I didn't have a preference. Actually, I think I like our language on 3.1 just because it's what we recommended.
Yes, I agree.
Sorry, Planner Wolf, if you don't mind going back up to the edit. 2.2.5 should read only the event monitor, AHA representative, and security guards are exempted from, shall remain on campus and are exempted from these time restrictions. Shall remain on campus past 10 p.m.
Let's give it in time.
Uh,
Can we or no?
They can stay.
Okay.
It's just those 3 people. Said staff, they'll be paying the staff to be there, so.
And are exempted, and you can, right.
Thank you. On 3.1, oh, we took care of application on 3.3. Okay. I think our proposed edits were the ones I liked on
Yes.
3.1 and the new 3.2. And I think since they've said that they've complied with the sound dampening measures, that maybe 3.6 is where we put in the closing of that all doors and windows, with the exception of when mandated by.
And you don't have
Fire
to, you don't have to put that exception in.
'Cause it
This
already
isn't-
overrides.
This is in favor of the city, so the city is the one that enforces these conditions.
Okay, great.
I do wonder if we're having, back to Commissioner Hubner's point, the monitoring closer and more consistently around for sound, whether that would be redundant. If they're
Yeah.
low enough on sound, then why couldn't you have the windows open for fresh air? And if they're noisy, then they should be doing everything they can, including that.
If they can make the windows open work. I don't think they can, but
It hasn't been our experience that that's worked very well so far.
I don't know. If I was having a wedding there, I would rather have like quiet music and fresh air, but maybe I'm a unique person.
I will note, Chair, that the commission did allow them to use the terrace, and they can still use the terrace if people wanted to get fresh air. It's just when they're inside, the noise has to be contained inside, and so the noise, hopefully some of this noise issue will be resolved by having the windows and doors closed.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the mitigations
Right, but,
is
I mean-
if
Doors and windows is a big mitigation.
Right, if they're mitigating and then 30 feet or 40 feet, the sound is dampened, that means that will probably suffice. And if not, okay, one of your measures is if you have the windows open, close them. So then, okay, then the sound monitor goes, okay, that's good.
Okay, so then I think 3.6 is going to be edited. To read that the windows and doors of the villa are to remain closed. Does it need to be more than that?
Well, I mean, while you want to say maybe, I don't know, while the event is being rented, or maybe while the music is being played, because we wouldn't want it closed at all times.
Well, the CUP only pertains to rented events, right?
How about just,
The CUP only pertains to, well, the CUP pertains to the villa. And so I mean, it's not just necessary, we're talking about when they can rent and all those things, but this CUP pertains to the villa. use
Okay.
of the villa.
Okay.
let-
Yeah,
So during an event, all windows and doors of the villa are to remain closed?
I would say, I'd like to put it in the vernacular of the sound monitoring, so that the doors and windows will be adjusted according to the sound monitoring, which will be at 30 feet from the building on all four sides and enforced by the sound monitor. So if one of the mitigations is they go, there's too noisy, so they have to close the windows. If that doesn't work, then they tell them to turn the music down or whatever they're doing that's yelling and screaming, whatever the violation is, that they can just, the closing the windows does it, fine. If that doesn't do it, they can leave them open and they just have to quiet down or whatever else is going on.
Yeah, that's my problem is it seems like we're,
But I'm just saying that the monitoring at a smaller perimeter at 70 decibels should,
right.
it's not going to be that at the curb, and I'm just hoping that will be.
more continuous just because it's closer as well.
Right.
Like it's not someone.
I'm hoping that will be enough that the neighbors will be satisfied, or if not, then we'll take further action.
Okay, so then if I may agree with your amendment and shape it a little.
Sure.
So 3.6 would be that during an event, in order to comply with section 3.7 below, doors and windows should be closed?
Shall be adjusted to.
Shall be adjusted.
To meet the sound decibel level.
That's fine with
70
me.
dB at 30 feet from the building.
Well, so we're gonna put the 30 feet from the building in the next section, 3.7 that has the
okay.
monitoring?
That's fine. For your language, that's fine. Yes, okay, then we'll go next to the.
Commissioners, my only concern with this is, this will only work if our event monitor can enforce these conditions.
Yep.
And
Right.
I just want us to be thoughtful about how these off-duty officers are gonna be going around checking off these boxes, because that's all they're gonna be doing. They're just gonna be checking off boxes and reporting back to us. So I would say, whatever you do, just craft it so that it's easy to enforce.
That's what 3.7 is all of that to me,
Well,
all in one thing.
so,
If you can have the doors and windows open, I don't think the neighbors are complaining about doors or windows, they're complaining about the sound.
so here's my concern. Every time we hear about this, it starts at okay, and then it keeps getting louder and louder. And so I'm more inclined to avoid having that it got loud and then enforced, loud and then enforced, right? And so I think that having the sound barrier there at all times is the way that we should write it, so that if practically the doors are open and there's no enforcement challenges, that's fine, but we need to write it such that the doors and windows are closed to mitigate that.
If you're saying that there's nothing he can do except check boxes and monitor it and then report back after the fact?
Correct.
Well,
And
they're gonna
and our event monitor, whoever that person's gonna be, this off-duty officer, isn't gonna be at that site the entire time. They're gonna be walking the campus.
Right.
So they won't be able to necessarily know when the noise is getting loud and they have to walk back and say,
I mean, but
this
we were
windows and doors should be closed.
Well, but if,
we were also saying, the next part is gonna say the monitoring is gonna be within 25 feet, so this walking the campus wouldn't be needed
yeah,
anymore
the whole,
as much.
the other
They're
problem is
just
it
gonna
would
be, like,
take him
in
forever, but
sight
he can
of-
be in and around and he can say, look, I'm standing here, it's something, people are screaming, there's 75
Right.
decibels coming off the west side, close the windows, the doors, or whatever the mitigation, or the next move is to go and tell whoever's responsible about the noise to have them do something, or they're gonna have to shut the event down.
Strikes where, you know, if they have 3 violations or something, then.
Well, I mean, they don't have power to shut down the event, is what you're saying.
Correct.
All they have is
They don't have the power to shut down the event, and also keep in mind that if a neighbor approaches, they're the ones charged with speaking to the neighbors. They're the ones charged with speaking to the police. They're the ones charged with speaking to other people that might have some concern. So,
They have a lot to
so
And there are loud breaks.
the easier you make this on the event monitor, the more successful this compliance program will be.
Yeah, I am inclined to,
So you want everything closed just to make it, okay. Whatever works,
I'm persuaded.
if it's going to.
okay.
Yep.
Okay, so let's say that, what was the language that we looked at? Is it, where did it go? This is 3.6. Yes, I think just that final sentence that was added is fine. And then strike the rest of 3.6.
Do we want to just make it in a different order, so we don't have to say condition below, like swap 3.6 and 3.7?
I have no preferences to that. I leave the lawyering to lawyers.
Yeah, that's a little bit. To me, sometimes in order to comply with something below, it's like, well, I haven't read it yet.
Right, I think you could even strike the in order to comply,
Yeah, that's fine too.
just windows and doors.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Makes it simple too.
So this one gets a little craftier. If I recall, the Sierra Madre Municipal Code works off of the concept of the reading being taken at the property line.
It does. Yeah, that's what I read. I don't agree at all with 70. It's not in line with any other city near us. They're all 50 to 55. I'm not sure where that 70 came from. I hear it's from a report.
Not all. I know a friend who's a DJ, and some cities have 100 decibel levels at.
Well, not Pasadena.
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
or immediate surrounding cities.
But I'm just saying.
Commissioners, on this point, if I may weigh in a little bit as well, I recommend not treating Alverno any differently than any other property. So if 70 decibels, I think, and I can be, correct me if I'm wrong, Manager Lynn, if 70 decibels is the standard used for other properties, then it should also be used for Alverno. Not so that they're not being
Well, then we should.
targeted specifically. So the ordinance, if the
Well,
ordinance
I mean-
needs to change, the ordinance needs to change.
I think we should just reference the ordinance then. And that if the ordinance changes, because I don't agree, I mean, I think the ordinance should be changed.
But they're
And that's
getting-
something that I guess the council would have to do, but we should make a recommendation for them to investigate that. Because,
They just did.
okay,
And what did they decide not to change it?
This number.
70.
Well, yeah. I mean, I would try and get it from, I think they have a special event that nobody else in the city can enjoy.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that point, that trying to conform to what the rest of the city
Right.
I
gets,
mean, I'll give you an example.
we're already giving them,
When St., I mean,
larger number of
this
events.
is not to speak negatively against St. Rita's, I mean, it's a community event. When they do their fundraiser with the carnival and everything, I mean,
it's loud.
yeah, I'm way on the other side of that, over by Mountain Trail up in the canyon, and I can hear the music, and I walked up and, I mean, I wasn't gonna go.
school event though, not a rental event.
But it's a fundraiser for the school, and it's a big
Right, and
carnival.
they
But
have
I'm
it
just
once
saying
a
it's-
year,
Yeah, right. So I'm just saying.
not 26 times a year.
Nobody was standing around with a decibel monitor
Nope.
at the park, at the one thing, and.
Right.
Where a lot of the noise was right up against, there was a band right next to.
I
right
can-
next to.
I can hear I can
Like-
hear every word that the singer's singing at my house.
But this has to
But
do
it's
with the
once a year.
preservation of a historical landmark, which is a one of a kind in this city, and we're giving them extra days and extra things, so I think we can make that requirement without making it, we're certainly like giving them a special privilege, we're actually making it, more restrictive. I mean, because the alternative is just to say, they violate
Right, 'cause
3 and.
I went to the outside the school on the November 18th, the one right after our meeting, and sound mostly with my decibel meter, drove around for about half an hour, took multiple readings. Most of them were within. The highs were like 62 to 67. It was loud.
So Commission, here's my point with respect to this specific condition. Whereas no property can just be rented in the city, and so therefore you can place restrictions on rent. Sound is different because all properties can make sound in the city, and all properties can make sound up to 70 decibels per the ordinance, if that's what the ordinance says.
Right.
And so that's why this condition I feel like is different than some of the other conditions that we're talking about, because, you know, renting a space is different than making sound in a space.
Right.
And I just want to draw that distinction. I feel like there's a difference. Ultimately, it's up to the commission to decide.
Right.
Well, and I guess another way, because what we haven't talked about yet is continuous monitoring rather than having
Right.
acute monitoring, right? Because the chances of acute monitoring detecting overages seems significantly less likely than a continuous monitoring system. And in fact, if I remember the way that the code was recommended, I don't remember if it's been passed yet or not. I think it hadn't been passed yet because they were working on figuring out electric mowers or electric blowers, leaf blowers, I
Right.
believe.
Oh, yes.
So that's where that got gummed up. But
Right.
I believe that the way that the new code was proposed included timelines of infringement. So if it's so many minutes out of a time period. And so I feel like if we
That's
want to
how- yeah.
conform to the way that the new code is going to work, that we can't do that without continuous monitoring, to city attorney's point of keeping it close to the municipal code.
Yeah, I think if it needs to be the code, then I haven't seen the new code, so I have no idea what it looks like.
Well, it's not new code yet.
Or it's almost new code. I wish I had an idea of what it looked like, but if there's things in there like that, my point being, the one I went to, we got a complaint. It was under 70 decibels, but I think it's not going to change anything in the future if it's still basically what I wanted to say earlier. It's becoming a nuisance, and regardless of meeting all this work that we're doing today, it can still be considered a nuisance, I believe, even if we meet all these types of things. That's why I would like to, if we were redoing this, I was hoping to get it to at least something a little bit less, so it wouldn't be just considered the same as far as,
Yeah.
I have the perspective that if we can, legally do so, we're doing Alverno a favor at this point if we reduce this, because if we don't reduce this, they're going to continue to get complaints. We're all gonna be so pissed off next time, we're gonna revoke
It's
the
gonna
whole
be done.
thing,
Well, but-
and everyone loses.
So towards that end, maybe we're looking at this the wrong way. Maybe we
Right.
should just tie it to the code with continuous monitoring and then go lobby the city council to change the number that's in the code. Because if what we're saying is that people have tested it at 70 and it's the wrong number, then let's go get city council when they revisit this code
Yes,
to change that number.
yes.
And let's tag this to the
That's why we
code,
tag
and
this
then
to
go
the code.
lobby city council to change the code if
Right.
that's, and we can send a recommendation to city council. They will receive that if we,
Right.
draft something like that.
And I would, Alverno's here, recommend that they voluntarily decide to make this less than 70, because
Yeah,
empirically 70 is a nuisance to the neighbors. The neighbors are a nuisance to us on the planning commission, in the fact that all of us are having to have continuous meetings to address this issue, and it's not being resolved, and it's tying back to the noise. So either they electively reduce that noise level somehow, or we, via the code, figure it out. But it's gonna have to happen.
Right. Because in a year from now, I don't want to hear, well, we didn't exceed 70 dBA. But
Everything's
it was
fine.
still, everything's fine.
When it's not.
There we go. We heard it
Alverno
again.
Alverno needs to make this work. This is, no matter what we write in this, they need to make it work. So,
Who knows if it's-
So then so I feel like we're getting consensus on the idea that we will tie it to the code, but add continuous monitoring.
My impression from the fact that they didn't come with the
wanna
proposal of
see-
continuous monitoring is that it was either too expensive or,
I heard something like that. Yeah.
Which was why I asked about city council's ability to selectively update if they appeal it. That was really my master plan there.
Got it.
Is that since they have not provided us that data.
Okay.
If they go and provide that data to city council, if they were to appeal our decision, city council can make that change at that time.
That sounds good.
Right.
Chair, I was going to add that was the reason. I remember, I can't find the email now because I have so many emails going
On
back
this
and forth
topic?
with Oliver. No, yeah, but it was that it was very expensive, and it seemed cost prohibitive.
As long as you don't cost the amount of time that all of city staff and the neighbors spend talking about this, don't cost her time.
Right. I think that'll come down to a decision. I mean, if that's what I personally, again, I don't think we need to state that in here. I say we tie it to the code. If they think that's going to work and we don't get complaints, that's fine with me. No matter what, I don't think we're never going to get 0 complaints. But if we're going to,
So the code currently has, so the way that it exists today has a number of locations that the readings have to be taken for, and we put in here some nuances of that. So we have to give some kind of guidance as to what that's going to look like, because I don't think what you're recommending is to pull out the monitoring.
no,
So
I'm
we
not.
have to
I'm
give
not.
direction on the monitoring.
Right.
So I guess what I'm looking for
Well,
is
then we have to
consensus
follow
on.
the current code, which I think is the property line monitoring.
Chair Dennison, I just want to update you that regarding leaf blower, they are going to be a second reading on the next city council meeting on Tuesday. And after that is done, then city council will agendize the update of the noise ordinance. So we still have time to make suggestions.
Okay.
So to answer your question, Commissioner, as it stands, yes, it's from the property line at 70 dBA. And if you tie it to the code and that code is later amended, then it could be amended to be some shorter distance,
Right.
some lesser amount, whatever the code is amended to be.
I think property line is pretty, when I dug through this back in October, property line of our neighboring cities, property line seemed to be pretty normal, where that would be measured from, because either it was that property line.
So that'll have to be, so I guess we should look at this as 2 separate things, right? If we want to address what we recommend for the city council, then because their second reading is coming up on Tuesday, you said?
Yeah, we can,
No.
So the leaf blower ordinance is having its second reading next Tuesday. So after that, then they will amend the noise ordinance.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So
I
first
see.
they're going to get the information on the leaf blower and then change the noise ordinance. So we have lots of time on the noise ordinance. So I recommend we tie it to the noise ordinance.
exactly, 1,000%.
But we still have to speak to, so our choices are to not have them monitor, which I don't think anybody's recommending.
No.
Or continue to monitor the way it's going.
Continue to do it
Or
for the same
do
4 months.
continuous monitoring.
I think we just continue, do we just tie it to this now? Again,
So the code doesn't say
How to monitor.
how to monitor. We have to tell them how to monitor. So we can either monitor the way that we have written here, or we can change what that looks like. Are you happy with the way that it's proposed here? Or do you recommend
continuously
something?
monitored.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the crux of it, is we've got to determine the monitoring frequency.
Okay, so we're switching companies. So when I go out there, and that's why I have a hard time with, okay, picture of a thing. That's not, if you're looking at a decibel meter as this party is going on, there's 48s, but there's 62s, but there's it's dynamic music,
That's why
so
I
it's
say
going up and
continuously.
down. Maybe we can take the highest reading over 30 seconds then we can still use a handheld meter if we have a trained
Yeah, we did this already.
individual.
But we did this, and the police came and did same thing, and when they showed up, they stood there, and it was like not high enough, but yet the neighbors had peaks, showed us these things with these peaks, you know, where they,
was
and they weren't there for that peak, and then he goes, well, it's only at 63 or something in their meeting, and it was at the property line, so we lost there. That's why I thought the distance idea made sense. But
Right.
now we're getting in one of these legal conundrums where our hands are tied because of some code BS.
Well, I mean, I don't think.
Modified. I mean,
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
It would be like, it's like I'm using my leaf blower on the sidewalk, and my neighbor comes up with a decimeter. He says, "Oh, your leaf
Well,
blower's exceeding it."
yeah.
You know, I'm blowing the leaves off the sidewalk. Okay, I'll go.
But we can't make it quiet enough to not be a nuisance. Can we write that? I don't think we can.
Right.
That's what I want to write.
Yeah.
They can't
So-
But I
write that either.
can't.
Oh my God.
So,
So I'm not hearing a ton of support for the idea of moving to continuous monitoring. So
I supported your justification. I mean, I feel like if we put that in, they can push back, or city council can push back, but that ultimately, I think, would help them not be a nuisance and help them.
it would help them prove that they were not a nuisance,
Well, also.
I think, is what it would do.
Yeah.
Because I think we look at this backwards still.
Yeah.
They needed, the point of this all is for them to be not a nuisance to their neighbors. We're trying to write things to show them how to do that, but in the end, that's our goal. And so if continuously monitoring would help them do that, I think it's great. I think whatever they want to do to make that happen is great. I don't know.
yeah, I mean, to your
I don't
point,
want
I
them
think
just to say, like, you gotta go spend this 20 grand to buy this monitoring system, and then it doesn't work.
yeah. Did you have something?
Sure, yeah. I just want to make sure we think through how this is going to work practically, because our event monitors have to go out and enforce this. So continuous monitoring, if I'm understanding correctly, means you're saying Alverno needs to go install something at specific sites to have continuous monitoring, and then provide those noise readings back to the city on some basis, like after each event or something. Whatever you decide, I just want to make sure that it's all clearly spelled out, so everyone knows what the expectation is.
Yeah, and I don't feel like we have enough information on continuous monitoring tonight to determine how best. Like, we don't know if that system would interact and give an output live to the event monitor so that they're actually activated to go there. So I'd rather get this in play and revisit the continuous monitoring as maybe the next steps if this becomes a challenge, and then focus our efforts on potentially helping city council craft what that level should be.
Right. I think that's a better way to go. I think we
Okay.
continue what we're doing now, but I would like to add at least, maybe we're not doing continuously monitoring, but we're doing whenever this flash goes off, that's our reading. I think we at least have to have like a highest over 60 seconds or something like that in there.
Well, I think that was just Securitas. We don't know if the new monitors are going to do it the same way or not. That was Securitas
Right.
showing that they were standing. So it was
Right, no,
the equivalent of pushing the metal thing as they're
be-
walking through as a security guard.
Are they always going to be off? I just noticed somebody was here.
It's always going to be our off-duty officers. Feel
Can
free to
we
talk
ask about their
to.
training on?
Yes, and feel free to talk to our police chief, because he's probably going to have more information than I will about
Can
that.
we ask him to come up?
Chief, we have some questions for you. Can you give us a background on what these off-duty officers will be doing as part of this proposed MOU?
Absolutely. So based on the proposed MOU, like the city attorney stated, they're not going to be wearing police uniform whatsoever. They're going to have a dark shirt or a shirt that will have event monitor in the back. And they're not going to monitor the decibel readings or noise reading every hour. It's going to be periodic throughout. So we're not gonna have every 15 minutes, it's just gonna be periodic throughout
Okay.
the entire event. So that we have random times, minutes, but I agree that depending if we're way on the north side of the campus, if the volume is elevated or what have you, I mean, we're not gonna have control over that.
It's gonna be tough. By the time you get back, it's gonna be different.
Correct. However, we could make it where they'll monitor it from, 30, 40 feet from the villa and see if that would work to remain within the decibel.
Right. Our
Or
tough-
maybe a little bit 70.
But it is at, the city code is written at, well, I believe is at the
It's at
perimeter of the property.
Correct.
And so we're trying to follow the same as the city code. Unfortunately, that's a 3-minute walk, in every direction from the villa. So however they get it done, whether that be, you can't always correlate a number to a number like that perfectly. But if they're monitored, they're professionals also. They have ears and, maybe they can, as that goes, they can try to keep it to that level.
Yeah, we will make every attempt. I mean, we're going to go above and beyond for our citizens and also for Alverno.
Right.
Obviously, they're going to be answering up to myself and the city manager directly. However, though, depending on how sound travels, bounces off walls, windows.
Right.
Like I've said in the past, in October, we had a couple of calls by a resident. We went there. We didn't notify the security there because we wanted to see it for ourselves. And the decibel reads were, I think, 55 and under.
Right.
And we still had people complaining.
Right.
Yep.
So I don't think there's a number you could come up with. You're gonna get somebody that complains.
Right.
We could put it at 50, and I think they have to do a study and see what's feasible. Maybe 70. It's probably a little too high, but I don't know what reasonable is. That's not my area of expertise.
No problem.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Chief.
Yeah.
And I think we could set a goal as like, no one's going to be perfect, but like things should be improving as we're adding
Yeah,
more
yeah.
conditions, and it doesn't seem like we've seen.
Absolutely.
improvement. So, of course,
Is
it's never
70
going to be perfect.
is 70 what the current code is?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. So then I guess we don't need to spell out the 70 in here. We can just say that it's consistent with the Sierra Madre Municipal Code, so that then whenever that changes, it's automatically updated. So I think Planner Wolf, I would,
Yeah, I think I wouldn't even put continuously or periodically. I would just put in follow the code. 'Cause-
well, no, the MOU says that they're gonna follow this. So what's dictated in here is what they're gonna do.
Right.
That's what the MOU states. So I think that if we take
Oh, right. I'm sorry. Yeah.
recorded noise readings shall not exceed, and then strike all the way through should, so that it reads, recorded noise readings shall not exceed chapter 9.32 of the Sierra Madre Municipal Code.
Currently have it reading, recorded noise readings.
Yeah, those stated in some. Yeah. Those. Thank you. Oh, in compliance with. I'm fine with that. Or not exceed. That's fine.
Okay, I'm fine with that language. In section 4.2, I think the reason that the intent of adding in 8:30 was that there had previously been confusion as to what end time meant, and we were removing wiggle room, so that's why we put it in there.
Keep the removed wiggle room.
Yeah.
added.
Delete deletion.
Um, Yep, that's correct, thank you. 5.5, I don't see what really changed there. They didn't have any edits to it. 5.6, they didn't have any edits. Uh, 5.61, no edits. 8.4, no edits. And then I think that brings us to section 11.4, I think you said, Planner Wolf, that we needed to revisit. 11.0. Okay, so esteemed colleagues from Alverno Heights Academy, were you able to determine how many events have been contracted?
From now until the end of September, because October 1st was our first, actually, it goes to October. There's 19 events
You've already contracted 19 events?
to 9/28/24.
Maybe leave it at 20, which is what the neighbors requested.
Well, then, at that point, we put,
But just leave it at, leave it at 20. The neighbors suggested that. I think that's a good support. But I don't know what else to do other than they're going to have to cancel.
yeah, but that's not even the year.
Yeah.
No, but the period starts over in October, correct?
No, it's a calendar year.
You're saying between now and then you have 19 additional events contracted, under contract with cash received.
There are 19 events through September, and we were running October to October. That's the way the last CUP is stated.
Is that,
So then you're saying, if we look at your calendar, just so we understand what this number means, so there's 3 in October, 3 in November, and 1 this weekend. So that's 6 of the 19. 6 of the 19 have already happened.
No, November already happened, November 18th, 2023.
Yeah, but you just said that you're running it from October to that's why I'm trying
No,
to get
I
clarity.
counted what you asked me from now until the end, and that's
So
what I
there's-
Okay,
counted.
yeah, that's different than what
But
you,
there,
all right, that's different than what I understood. So
So
thank
there's-
you for the clarification.
so
already
if you
25 for
count
the year.
November 18th, then that would be 20. If you're counting November 18th, 2023.
no, I thought you were counting from October to October. Isn't that the year we have here?
Yes, she said that she was counting October to October, but what she meant was from November 18th through the end of the year, there's 20. So
Okay.
there's 19 that have yet to happen between now and what date?
September 28th.
Okay. So October to October is 25, because we had 3 last October and 2 before the 18th. So we're 1 short of the maximum already.
Well, 3 plus 2 plus 19 is 24, right?
Plus there were 2 in September.
3 plus 3 plus 19.
Oh, 3 plus 3.
Yeah. So,
So my question is, if we ever do
It's
want to
27.
roll this back, it seems like we
27.
have to do it in a huge amount of advance warning, because otherwise.
we don't have to.
I mean, we do not have to, absolutely not, but it would suck for the people who booked the place. So I agree we don't have to, but
Yeah.
it's ideal to make someone not have to reschedule
And-
their wedding venue or whatever.
Okay, I like what you're saying. Why don't we limit next year's?
That's
And
what
we
I'm
can,
saying,
and we
yeah.
can always, so, because they're already at their maximum through the end of this year, through the end of our review period.
Yeah.
So why don't we limit from that period forward?
Mhm.
We'll limit it, that's a great idea. We'll limit it to 13,
Yeah.
and then they can backfill spots if we raise them.
Yeah, if it goes really
Ugh.
well, then we can always raise it, but we're never gonna be able to,
Yep,
yeah.
I agree.
Can we put that language in? Yeah.
You betcha we'll go back to that and figure out where to put that.
That's,
Okay, so I have to go to 1.9, you said?
1.1.
1.1, okay.
I have it on screen.
Great, so maybe we change this to be a total of no more than 26 rental events per well, this says per calendar year.
They haven't made the,
How about just review period of October to October, since we're dealing with that?
I'm ready just to say no more rental events until this is done. I mean, by the time if we do that, it's just gonna keep going.
Oh, well,
We just stick to what's booked right now and revisit it in October.
why can't we change the language from calendar year to the review period? So we have a starting and stopping point that we're already using. I don't see, that's not legal language.
Calendar year makes
It's not
sense
like
to
the
me.
property line where we're stuck with it because of, some other ordinance, right?
Yeah, it's getting booked a year plus in advance.
Yep, they get booked.
Severely restrict next October, November, December, right? Because if it goes down to 13, you said they used 8 in those 3 months last year, 3, 3, and 2, right? That means they'd be restricted to 5 from January going forward to the following October.
When is this CUP in force until? October?
Forever.
Forever, okay.
So that's why we made sure to include this review period in this annual update of it, so that
Right.
we were able to revisit this. So can somebody point in the TUP where the review period says that it happens on the anniversary of,
11.0. It's in the middle.
okay?
Unless otherwise designated, the public hearing shall be held on the first anniversary in every year thereafter. So the next anniversary would be in October, same time.
I think we
Roughly.
should go to that then. That'll cut it to 13.
so we could say beginning in 2025, a total of no more than 13 calendar year.
Sorry, I'm trying to find the language. There we go. There's the TUP language. Okay.
So my suggestion would be 1.1, we would say beginning in 2025, and then we'll have a chance to revisit that in October and,
Yes, that's what I'm leaning
bump
towards
it
as
up
well.
if it's going well, or bump it down if it's, well, we might not have a chance to bump it down if they've already booked the 13
Well, it'll be a year.
easily.
At the rate we're going, everything's going to be a year lagging, right?
Yeah.
So,
Right.
So I think that what we do is we change 1.1 to read a total of no more than 26 rental events in the calendar year 2024 may be held.
Yeah.
No more than 13 rental events in the calendar year 2025 may be held. And then we'll, in October, when we have our next review of this, decide where to go from there.
Update 2020. What if they book more in 2026?
Well, that's why. I
That's a
said
great point.
beginning.
So,
Going forward.
starting
Yeah.
with the calendar,
Yeah, it was originally, yeah, starting or,
yes, starting calendar year 2025, no more than 13 rental events may be held per year,
Per count?
per calendar year.
and I think this really allows Alverna to see that there are some consequences to not improving, and we will have to the chance to reduce that
Yeah.
for 2026, likely.
Well, we could.
I mean, there
we could
are.
change that in 7 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they could show that it's going to work, we can change
I mean, they're going to
that.
have plenty of events between now and then to show what great neighbors
right.
they are. And it'll be a lovely short meeting where we modify this one line next year.
And you will also have the benefit of a lot of event monitor checklist reports.
Yep. This will be a great interim review period with the new criteria. Are there any other changes that we want to make at this time?
I'm done.
Yeah, but do you want to make any more changes?
Well, I mean,
Oh, wait.
my property line thing and help with the closer monitoring got, thrown out with, other regulations. So.
Yes,
Fix
yes,
that.
there are. Let's keep going. No more than 3 a month.
Oh, in those different months?
Maybe 2.
Well, they're already booked for the year, so.
I mean, past
already-
it passed 2026.
Right. I mean, essentially, they're gonna be done in September.
And
Because they've had the 8, they've had the previous months plus the 19 they've had here, so,
Or if we don't need to touch that, that's fine.
I mean, if you wanna
I
change it to
think-
2 a month,
I
if you
think
wanna
it's
change
fine.
it to 2 a
That
month,
just
that's
gets them
okay.
all over in 4 months.
If they get them all over in 4 months, then the neighbors get
Yeah,
8 months
yeah.
off.
Yeah,
And that might be something they like to do and have better success with.
yeah, that,
You could make it, you could change it to 2, I don't think it matters. I think it's gonna be limited by the number of events, total events, and.
Yeah.
I think that's the bigger driving factor. All right. Any other changes anybody would propose?
No, what was, you wanted to do something on 11, right? Or did we handle that?
We handled that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, right there, okay.
Okay, then I guess I would look for a motion to approve amendments for private rental events and filming at the villa pursuant to CUP 2203
And-
as amended?
Chair, and before you close this item and made your motion, I just wanted to confirm whether or not the commission had any amendments to the checklist. We made sure to include it as part of the agenda packet because we wanted your feedback as well.
Oh, where is it?
I think it looked good. I think changing it as you go, I think we referred it to planning to work with city staff to update that as needed, right?
I think.
So if there were no comments.
The key, the neighbors were previously ambiguous about like who was filling out what parts, and I think the
Yeah.
form has addressed a lot of those concerns.
Yeah. I think you took care of a lot of the concerns we had, and I think that having people who are used to filling out reports fill out these reports,
yeah.
that was one of the things.
Who we trust, yeah.
That was one of the things when I first joined the fire department here that I was told. However you fill in those reports, think about what it's going to look like 4 feet across and 8 feet high when you're on the stand.
Nice.
All right.
It looks
So then I
good.
guess we're looking for a second for that motion.
I'll move,
I'm sorry. Actually, I need somebody to move.
I'll make the motion. to
Second?
CUP 2203
sorry.
as modified and amended.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Staff, I know that this has been a ton of work, and we really appreciate all the hard work that you put in on this. Thank you and your team.
Once again, I thank you for your time, and I will take this back to our Board of Trustees for their input and whether or not they'll agree to move forward with this or appeal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, next up is Planning Commission reports. Any planning commissioners have anything to report? Planning and Community Preservation Department reports.
Chair, for the next meeting on March 21st, we'll have a discussion on the municipal code text amendment on the TUP and the HOP, temporary use permit and the home occupation permit. ordinance.
Get to write some code.
That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Anybody have anything else to bring before? Hearing none, I will adjourn the meeting to our next regularly scheduled meeting of March 21st.
Oh.